Imagine ordering a $2,000 solid oak dining table online.
Oh, yeah. A huge purchase.
Right, you find the perfect piece, you click that digital buy now button, and you feel great.
Because it's so easy.
Exactly. But behind the scenes, that single click didn't just trigger a simple delivery. You just set off a chaotic, high-stakes military airlift of 18-wheelers.
Oh, and strict federal shipping laws.
Yeah, and a ticking 5-day countdown clock for damage claims. Welcome to the deep dive.
Glad to be here.
You know, usually when we talk about e-commerce, there's this expectation of magic.
Mm-hmm.
You buy a t-shirt or like a book, and 2 days later, a neatly taped cardboard box just appears on your porch.
Like magic.
Right. It's clean, it is binary, and the physical reality of how it got there is completely invisible to you.
Yeah, we have basically been conditioned to treat the internet like a giant vending machine.
A vending machine, exactly.
You put your digital coin in and the machinery just dispenses the item with, zero friction.
Right.
But the moment you step into the world of selling big ticket items like furniture, that digital magic trick completely falls apart.
Because you cannot just slap a postage stamp on a massive sectional sofa.
No, you really can't.
So today, we're looking at a comprehensive guide on how to start a furniture store on Shopify. But the mission of this deep dive isn't just about setting up a website.
Not at all.
It is about unpacking a surprising reality. Selling furniture online is actually a high-stakes logistics and freight business that just happens to be wearing a digital storefront as a disguise.
Yeah, and if you are fascinated by how complex systems actually function behind the scenes, this is honestly the perfect case study.
For sure.
Whether you are an aspiring entrepreneur trying to figure out why your margins are vanishing, or you're just someone curious about why your new couch arrives strapped to a massive wooden pallet, the hidden mechanics of big-tate e-commerce are incredibly revealing.
Yeah, it's wild.
The digital storefront, the beautiful photos, the color swatches, that is just the tip of the iceberg. The real business is entirely physical.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because before anyone can design a beautiful online store, they have to understand the physical limitations of the real world.
Absolutely.
Where does that vending machine magic trick actually break down? There has to be a specific point where standard shipping just throws its hands up and quits.
Yeah, there is. And that breaking point happens at exactly 150 pounds.
Wow, exactly 150.
Yep, 150 pounds or roughly 3 cubic feet in volume. That is the critical threshold in logistics.
Okay.
Below that line, you are playing in the standard parcel network. That is your UPS, your FedEx Ground, the Postal Service.
Right, normal stuff.
Exactly. They operate on a system of standard cardboard boxes, high-speed conveyor belts, and courier vans. It is all about automation and tumbling boxes down sorting chutes.
Tumbling being the key word there.
Right. But once a single shipment tips past that 150-pound mark or, gets too bulky to fit on a standard belt, the physics completely change.
So what happens?
Well, those standard parcel carriers will either flat out refuse to take the item, or they will penalize you with oversized surcharges that just completely wipe out your profit margin.
So the heavy shipment gets kicked out of the comfortable parcel network. Where does it go?
It gets pushed into a much older, much more industrial network called LTL.
LTL.
Yeah, which stands for less than truckload freight.
Listing truckload.
Okay.
The moment your item enters LTL, it is no longer a box tumbling down a chute. It is strapped to a wooden pallet.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it is being moved entirely by forklifts. It is riding on the back of an 18-wheeler alongside, industrial machinery or engine parts.
That's a totally different world.
Completely.
Okay.
And crucially, it requires a scheduled delivery appointment. A freight carrier cannot just chuck a palletized sofa onto your front porch and drive away.
Right. This completely reframes the business model. I mean, standard e-commerce really is like that vending machine, highly predictable, uniform, drop a coin in, get a snack out.
But furniture e-commerce is like coordinating a military airlift. A t-shirt store lives on impulse buys.
Yeah, you see a cool graphic on Instagram, you buy it, it ships flat rate in a poly mailer.
Right. But a furniture store lives on considered four-figure purchases that fundamentally alter the math of the business. You're moving living room sets, not socks.
Yeah, the software literally needs to account for forklifts.
Which is crazy to think about.
And because LTL is a completely different physical network, the pricing model is entirely different too.
How so?
Well, you cannot just look up a flat rate on a simple chart. LTL freight pricing is notoriously complex. It's governed by centralized organizations like the NMFTA.
NMFTA?
Yeah, the National Motor Freight Traffic Association.
Yeah.
Every single item you ship carries a freight class that determines its price. And that class used to be based on a subjective mix of stowability, handling difficulty, and liability.
So if something was oddly shaped or fragile, it cost more.
Exactly. But what's fascinating here is how the industry is actively shifting its math.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the NMFTA rolled out a major classification reform in 2025, and they stripped away a lot of that subjectivity.
Interesting. What did they replace it with?
They made one single metric, the absolute king of freight pricing:
And that is
density, pounds per cubic foot.
density. Okay, let me see if I can deduce why that matters so much.
For it.
A truck hauling freight has two absolute limits,
Right.
right? It has a strict limit on the maximum weight it can carry, but it also has a strict physical limit on the volume inside the trailer.
You hit the nail on the head. In the logistics world, a truck will usually cube out, meaning it runs out of physical space long before it weighs out or hits its actual weight limit.
Oh, I see.
Think about shipping a fully assembled lightweight wicker chair.
Okay.
It hardly weighs anything, but a dozen of them take up half the trailer.
Right, because of the shape.
Exactly. For a trucking company, empty air is their worst enemy. If you are taking up space but not providing weight, they are losing money.
That makes total sense.
So density standardizes that space-to-weight ratio. It forces furniture stores to pay for the empty air they are wasting inside the trailer.
Which means the shipping math is so highly specific to the exact dimensions of your exact product that you can't possibly guess these rates in advance.
You really can't. You have to use live rate shopping applications plugged directly into your store's backend.
Wow.
Yeah, the moment a customer adds an item to their cart, that software pings a network of freight carriers to get real-time quotes based on the exact verified density of that specific piece of furniture.
Because LTL freight is so wildly expensive and complicated, a store owner absolutely cannot afford for the customer to return the item just because they, misjudged the size of their living room.
Exactly. The complexity of the physical logistics forces the digital storefront to be incredibly precise.
Oh, you have to get it right the first time.
Right. If the physical movement of the freight is a blunt instrument, forklifts and wooden pallets, the digital data on the website has to be a scalpel.
A scalpel. I like that.
You have to give the customer every possible tool to know exactly what they're getting before that truck ever leaves the dock.
But how do you build that level of precision into a digital catalog? Because a single sofa could come in 12 different fabrics, 3 different sizes, and 2 different leg finishes.
It's a lot.
That is an exponential data nightmare.
It used to be, yeah. But modern platform architecture has adapted to handle it. Shopify, for example, allows for up to 2,048 variants per product.
2,048. That's huge.
Yeah, so mapping out the linen versus the velvet, the charcoal versus the navy, the 3-seat versus the massive sectional, that all fits natively into the database now.
Okay, but what about custom stuff?
Right. For truly custom requests like made-to-order dimensions or requesting a physical fabric swatch to be mailed out first, stores use something called line item properties.
Line item properties.
Yeah, this captures highly specific, non-standard buyer input right at the add to cart moment, and it locks it to that specific order.
But the buyer still can't physically sit on the sofa, right? Or pull out a tape measure in a showroom. How do you bridge that massive trust gap for a $2,000 purchase sight unseen?
You bridge it with structured data, specifically using something called metafields.
Metafield.
Yeah, metafields allow a store to store highly custom data on a product record that goes way beyond just the title and the price.
Like the dimensions.
Exactly. There is actually a great piece of trivia from the source material.
Oh, let's hear it.
Shopify's own official help center uses a furniture store's dimensions field with height and depth as its primary textbook example for how to use metafields.
That's funny. Because you can't just bury the dimensions in a rambling paragraph of text at the bottom of the page.
Exactly the opposite. You pull those dimensions out into specific structured fields so the customer sees them immediately.
Right.
But also, so the shipping calculator we talked about earlier knows exactly what physical volume is actually going into the cart.
That is so smart.
But beyond just numbers on a screen, the industry is seeing a massive, verifiable shift toward 3D models and augmented reality.
Oh, AR. The stats from the case studies on this are wild.
They really are.
When shoppers use 3D and AR to virtually place a piece of furniture in their own living room through their phone, they are 44% more likely to add it to their cart.
Yep.
And 65% more likely to actually place the order.
It's a huge jump.
Another brand documented a 40% conversion bump and a critical 5% drop in returns just by letting people see how the item physically occupied their space.
Those numbers show that AR isn't a gimmick anymore. It is a primary risk mitigation tool for freight.
Totally.
But serving that experience technically is pretty challenging. A high-quality 3D model of a textured velvet sofa is a massive file.
I can imagine.
The platform handles GLB and USDZ files natively, though.
GLB and USDZ.
Yeah, think of them as the 3D equivalents of a JPEG or a PDF. They are the standard formats your smartphone uses to project a virtual object into the real world.
But dropping a huge 3D file onto a mobile web browser sounds like a recipe for a frozen phone.
It would be, yeah. But the backend automatically optimizes any file over 15 megabytes, specifically for Apple's AR Quick Look and Android's Scene Viewer.
Oh, that's clever.
So the shopper gets a seamless, fast experience on their phone, spinning the sofa around and placing it in their room without the store owner having to manually compress a dozen different file formats to make it work.
Here's where it gets really interesting.
Oh, yeah?
How do you cram infinite custom fabrics, finishes, huge 3D models, and precise density dimensions into a standard checkout screen without completely breaking the back-end shipping calculator?
It's a tightrope walk.
Because eventually all this digital browsing turns into a physical cart, and we hit the moment of truth.
That checkout button is the bottleneck where the digital and physical worlds collide.
Right.
You've got the AR model perfectly placed, the dimensions are exact, the customer clicks buy. Now, how does a massive pallet actually get through their front door? This introduces the 3 delivery tiers and the friction associated with each of them.
Because an 18-wheeler isn't just going to casually back into a suburban driveway and toss a sofa on the lawn.
It absolutely won't. The entry-level logistics tier is curbside.
Curbside. Sounds rough.
It is. The pallet is dropped at the edge of the driveway or the curb, and the driver literally just leaves.
Oh.
It is cheap for the merchant, sometimes even offered for free, but it is a customer experience nightmare.
I bet.
You are leaving a 200-pound pallet outside and essentially telling the buyer, good luck. It destroys brand trust the moment it starts raining.
Yeah, that would be terrible. What's the next option?
The next step up is threshold delivery.
Okay.
A local crew brings the item to the first dry area, like inside the front door or into a garage. It always requires a scheduled appointment, but the customer still has to unpack it themselves.
Which brings us to the top tier. The one that actually feels like magic.
White glove.
White glove.
This is full service. A specialized team carries the piece to the exact room of choice. They unpack it, they assemble it, and this is the most crucial part. They take all the massive wooden pallets, shrink wrap, and packing debris away with them.
That sounds amazing, but expensive.
It is. Some brands subsidize this and offer it for a flat fee of around $100, but usually it requires a custom quote at checkout and can cost significantly more.
Right. For a $2,000 sofa, plus maybe a $250 premium white glove delivery fee, that is a huge psychological and financial hurdle for a customer to clear all at once.
Which is exactly why buy now, pay later options like ShopPay, Klarna, or Affirm are practically mandatory for big-ticket furniture stores.
Well, that makes sense.
Breaking that massive cost into predictable installments is the only way to push many of these heavy carts over the finish line.
Right, it softens the blow.
And for made-to-order sourcing models, where you might be waiting 6 weeks for a bespoke piece to be built, stores leverage partial payments.
How does that work?
They collect a deposit up front to fund the raw materials and production without forcing the customer to pay the full balance on day one for an item that doesn't even exist yet.
Let's go back to that checkout screen for a second.
Yeah.
Because the sources detail a very specific logistical nightmare called the mixed cart challenge.
Oh, the mixed cart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me use an analogy here. Imagine trying to book a standard commercial flight for yourself and simultaneously booking a private freight train for your luggage.
Right.
But you have to do both on the exact same checkout screen, getting a single combined price in about 5 seconds.
The friction there is intense because you are forcing the software to speak two entirely different logistical languages at the exact same time.
It sounds impossible.
In a mixed cart, you have a customer buying that 200-pound sofa, which absolutely must move via LTL freight, on a pallet alongside a set of decorative throw pillows, which can just be tossed in a poly mailer and shipped via standard parcel.
You can't just print one shipping label for both of those. They travel in completely different universes.
Exactly. To solve this, the store relies on back-end shipping profiles.
Shipping profiles.
You isolate the parcel accessories, like the pillows, on one profile, and the LTL freight items, like the sofa, on a separate profile.
Okay, so they are split up.
Behind the scenes, the system pings the parcel network for the pillows, pings the LTL network for the sofa's density, calculates the rates independently, and then seamlessly combines them into one unified shipping total for the buyer.
That is some heavy lifting for the software.
And this mixed part scenario is why collecting a phone number at checkout is suddenly a make or break detail.
Because of the delivery appointment.
Yes.
If that LTL freight profile is triggered, the carrier literally cannot deliver the item without calling the customer to schedule a time.
Exactly.
No phone number, no delivery. The pallet just sits in a warehouse collecting fees.
It creates a massive bottleneck if the store forgets to make the phone number a required field.
I can see that.
Which brings us to the dark side of this business. White glove delivery and AR models sound like a dream, but what happens when reality hits?
Yeah, what happens?
What happens when that 200-pound dining table gets dropped on the pavement by a rushed forklift driver?
Oh, no.
The logistics loop is not closed until the item is safely sitting in the living room or a damage claim is filed.
And unfortunately, damage and returns are a mathematical certainty when you are moving heavy objects across the country.
They really are.
According to the National Retail Federation and Happy Returns data in the sources, online furniture returns run about 22.7%.
Pause and visualize that for a second.
Okay.
Imagine standing on a warehouse loading dock, watching 5 trucks roll out full of inventory, knowing mathematically that an entire truckload is going to come right back.
That is brutal.
And you have to pay for the diesel fuel both ways.
That sounds financially devastating. How does a brand survive that?
They only survive if they have an ironclad process for handling freight claims. The rules governing these claims are incredibly strict based on standard Carmack Amendment practices.
The Carmack Amendment.
Yeah, it's a federal law that dates back over a century, originally designed for railroads, actually.
Oh, wow.
It determines who is liable when interstate freight gets damaged. Under these practices, the formal window to file a claim with a carrier is 9 months, and the carrier then has 120 days to pay, compromise, or deny it.
Wait, 9 months to file a claim seems incredibly generous.
It does, right?
Yeah. If I drop my television, I can't return it to the big box store 8 months later. What's the catch?
The catch is a hidden trap called the concealed damage clock.
Concealed damage. Okay.
Imagine the huge cardboard box arrives looking perfectly fine. The shrink wrap is intact.
Sure.
The customer signs the delivery receipt, the crew leaves it in the dining room, and the customer waits until the weekend to open it.
Makes sense.
But when they finally unpack it, they realize the table leg is completely snapped in half.
Oh, man. But they already signed for it, saying it was received in good condition.
Exactly. Because they sign a clean receipt, proving the carrier broke it and not the customer during unpacking becomes incredibly difficult.
I see.
For this concealed damage, you typically only have about 5 business days to flag to the carrier.
Only 5 days.
Yep. If the customer waits a week to open the box, that short countdown clock has run out, the claim is entirely voided, and the store just has to eat the loss.
So what does this all mean for the business owner?
It's a huge risk.
Let's say a customer receives a massive $1,500 credenza. They open it immediately, and there's a visible 3-inch scratch on the side.
Okay.
They are furious, and they want to return it. Isn't it absolute madness to pay LTL freight rates to ship a heavy, slightly flawed item all the way back across the country?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you are hitting on the most crucial operational strategy in the entire furniture industry.
Really?
Yeah, let's look at the brutal unit economics. Outbound freight for these items runs anywhere from $350 to $1,400 per item.
Wow.
It costs roughly 42 cents to $2.12 per mile just to move it on a truck, depending on the lane.
That adds up fast.
It does. If outbound freight is that expensive, reverse freight is just as bad, if not worse, because you don't have bulk discounts on the way back.
So if you authorize the return, you are paying double the freight, maybe $1,000 just in shipping, and you still just have a scratched credenza sitting in your warehouse that you can't sell as new.
Exactly. Which brings up the salvage versus return threshold.
The salvage versus return threshold.
Often giving a customer a massive cash discount, say 40% off to just keep the flawed piece, is a much, much smarter business move than hauling it back.
Oh, so you essentially bribe them to keep it.
Pretty much. You salvage the sale, you save the exorbitant return freight cost, and you avoid dealing with damaged inventory taking up warehouse space.
That makes total sense. It is damage control in the most literal way.
Furthermore, these unit economics dictate where you can even afford to do business at all. There is a general 40–50% rule in furniture e-commerce.
What guy?
If the cost of freight hits 40–50% of the item's total sale price, you should not be shipping it nationally.
It's just not worth it.
It will destroy your margins. You should only be selling that specific item locally where you can deliver it in your own box truck.
What about restocking fees to discourage returns? Can a store just charge the customer 20% for changing their mind on a heavy item?
They are legal, but it's a minefield of state-by-state regulations.
Of course it is.
For instance, California and New York both have strict laws requiring conspicuous disclosure of restocking fees.
So you have to be super clear about it.
You have to state the exact dollar amount or percentage very clearly in your policy before the checkout happens.
If you don't.
If you hide it in fine print, or if it isn't completely obvious, the law steps in and gives the buyer a default 30-day right to a full refund, no matter what your internal company policy says.
Wow. It really is a logistics business first and a furniture brand second. When you step back and look at this entire journey, from the 150-pound threshold that kicks you out of the parcel network to the precise AR models required to build trust, all the way to white-glove delivery friction and fighting those 5-day concealed damage clocks, it is a completely different world than selling standard consumer goods.
The product itself is almost secondary to the industrial system required to move it.
So to summarize our journey today, in big-ticket e-commerce, the store isn't actually just selling a sofa.
No, they're not.
They are selling the delivery experience, the highly accurate data, and the damage control process.
That's the real product.
The beautiful website, the stylish Shopify theme, the curated fabric choices, that is just the window dressing to get you into their logistical network.
It really makes you wonder about the long-term future of this entire model.
How so?
Think about the massive economics of freight we just discussed. If 40–50% of a brand's margin can be eaten up just by moving heavy wood and fabric across the country on diesel trucks, what happens when localized 3D printing and advanced micromanufacturing truly scale up?
Oh, that's an interesting thought.
If the entire business of online furniture is actually just a logistics business disguised as a storefront, what happens to these massive brands when the need for logistics completely disappears?
Right, because you wouldn't need to ship it.
Imagine a near future where your online order is nothing more than a digital file sent directly to a robotic manufacturing hub in your own zip code. It gets printed overnight and driven 5 minutes down the street to your door.
That completely shatters the illusion, doesn't it?
It really does.
The digital Buy Now button finally becomes what we always pretended it was pure magic, without the 18-wheelers. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Next time you see a delivery truck backing up with a wooden pallet, you will know exactly what kind of hidden, high-stakes machinery it took to get it there. Keep questioning the mechanics of the world around you, and we'll catch you next time.